Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my fellow host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
I am rife with excitement.
Right.
You want to know why?
There's
an actual reason.
Now,
this is going to air in a few weeks, but tonight, Twin Peaks is coming back.
Oh.
And Twin Peaks was the first show that I went off the deep end for, and got so obsessed I didn't know what to do with myself. And then I did that with Lost, and then I did that with Angry Birds, and then I did that with Pokemon Go, and now I'm coming full circle back to Twin Peaks.
Wait, you went like bonkers over Pokemon Go?
Yeah, I was at level, let's see, when I had to finally take it off my phone, which was last August, September, somewhere in there. Maybe it was later than that. It was probably further into the fall. I was level 23 or 24, something like that, which is meaningless to you.
No,
probably.
I played it for a week like everybody else did.
Oh, no, I went, that was, well, you didn't want to get into this, but I dropped a bunch of weight, and one of the things I did was I walked a lot so I could pick up Pokemon eggs and stuff, and then I have quite a walk from my parking spot at Carnegie Mellon to the building, so I was able to collect a bunch of stuff.
Dude, you're the euphonium professor there.
I know, right?
They don't get you a spot by the door for that?
No, that's true. And Duquesne, same deal. I got to walk up this long hill, and there's plenty of Pokemon collection that happens along the way.
Have they heard your pantomime, dude?
It's a good. Well, I see. The thing is,
I haven't, by the way.
I did a pantomime, and they didn't realize it was a piece because I did this like whole pantomime thing, and it was fancy. It was fancy. I had a leotard, and it ended in a big flourish. I pulled. It was like a slight tear, but it's healing. But they didn't realize that then it was supposed to be followed up with this piece called pantomime. So they didn't understand.
We've got a lot of ground to cover in this intro, so unless it's going to be 19 minutes, we should probably get on.
All right, fine. You asked.
I'm trying to unsee you in a leotard while playing euphonium standard rep, and I don't know what's more upsetting. So
I cried a tear.
So we have an
exciting
announcement to make.
We do?
Yes, we do.
I'm excited already. What is it?
If everyone goes to our Instagram account, which is at Pray for Yens, that's the number 4, Pray the number 4 Yens, then you will see the long-promised trumpet photos of yours truly and my jackhole colleague here, and they're special. So
they're special, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason that we were photographed with trumpets is because we got to $50 an episode on Patreon, which is awesome. You guys rock. It's great. We are on our way to $75 and to $100 if you want to see the next installments of rewards. Then go to patreon.com/The Brass Junkies. Spoiler alert: $100 is us recording a trumpet duet, which will be. I was playing the Haydn, or was it the Hummel? Who cares? One of the 2 trumpet concertos, which is 2 more than the tuba. I got it. Don't send me emails. Don't at me. But like,
don't at me, bro.
During the photo shoot, so which was a part of our Cones and Tones recording session that we had down in South Carolina with J.D. Shaw and I almost said Lance LaDuke. That's you, right?
I was there.
Yeah, and David Cutler.
Dr. David Cutler.
And in fact, we posted a couple of weeks ago, and anyone can access this if you become a patron, because you can go back to the old posts. But we recorded, Lance and I just started. There was like no intro music. There was no credits. There was no nothing. It was just like dropped right into the conversation. We recorded an episode that was just over 30 minutes of can you hear my dog like crawling over things, and you can hear my kid's iPad in the background. Yeah, we sometimes do these intros in bunches. So if you heard the Steve Reed one, you heard it's like same little Einstein's episode is going, and my dog is still needy. So there was a dog barking outside, so I at least closed the window. So but we posted on Patreon.
You're still watching Little Einsteins?
I am still watching Little Einsteins. It's helping with my counting. So
good.
And my shapes. So we recorded a Patreon patrons only episode, which was like a behind the scenes for the Cones and Tones recording session, and we kind of did a deep dive on what a general recording session looks like, including like how you set up the mics and like the role of a producer and of an engineer, and then we also kind of went deep on this specific album and talked all about this. So for those of you who are already patrons, then you can already hear that. And anyone who becomes a patron, which can be as little as $1 per episode, or all the way on up to, I think our top one now is $10 an episode. But you can really be. I mean, hell, we'd take $500 an episode. We'll say
we would do that.
We'll say super nice things about you.
We would do that for you,
no matter who you are. Well. Yeah, I can think of an exception, but other than that, yeah, just about anybody. So that's at if you're a patron, then you can see that that's a patron only post on patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. So thank you to everybody who helped us get there, and we hope you enjoy, in quotations, the trumpet photos. So that was like that was one of the 3 best days of my career was that recording session, and the trumpet photos I think was the best part of it.
They're pretty funny.
They're pretty funny. So
horrifying.
So today's guest is Joanna Hersey.
Fantastic.
She's awesome.
Joanna since, early 90s when she joined the Coast Guard band. I was in the Air Force band, and she came right out of ASU. She was like 19 and joined that band. So it was really fun to get to sit down and talk with her. She's got this incredible energy, and she's just an enthusiastic human. And it was great to spend an hour, hearing all the stuff she's been up to. She's way too busy. I couldn't take being that busy.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. She's and we both have been as busy as she is for long stretches of time, like years. But yeah, she's insanely busy. So, but she's loving it. So it's like good for them. So
yeah,
I just said good for them, good for her. I was thinking them because of Jam, which is we recorded with her and Michael Parker, and they have some guy who makes mouthpieces and who sponsors our podcast, who was my college roommate. Other than that, it's not ringing a bell. But Jam stands for Joanna and Michael, and they got a low brass duo there, and they're playing euphoniums and tubas and chimbassi. Is that?
I guess so. No one's ever seen two of them at the same time, so we've never had to worry about
it. Someone is definitely going to at me for chimbassi. Yeah, either to say
pardon me, podcaster.
I am a doctor of plural chimbassos. When did you get your doctorate, Lance?
My doctorate, it was supposed to be sent because I did a mail order thing. I was going to be a doctor of musical religiosity, and it never showed up. It was the University of the Sacred. I got nothing.
So. The Jam album is awesome. You can buy it at CD Baby. It's really great. So check it out. There's 4 tunes that feature me and Knucklehead here that we recorded that were tuba euphonium quartets, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah,
it's a very cool CD. I had a chance to listen to it on the drive not too long ago, and I was very impressed with the selection of tunes.
Yep.
And we had done it long enough ago that I had forgotten some of the things that we recorded. I go, that's kind of, I think that's us.
Yeah, Long Black Veil. Yeah, there's some nice stuff. So, So check it out, and that link to that's in the show notes. And I guess we should. It would be pretty funny if I didn't mention the Parker Mouthpieces spot like during an episode that he's definitely going to listen to. So, the thank you to, and we don't really mean it. We have to say this contractually. Thank you to Parker Mouthpieces for providing our hosting. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine customizable component mouthpieces. But when he says customizable, they're not that customizable. It's not like you can use like a horn rim and a tuba cup and a trombone shank. So it's kind of false advertising.
Well, and there should be more components. There's just 3 components.
Right. It's kind of weak.
There should be like 19 or 20 components.
That was my suggestion to him, and he was like workflow, blah blah blah, manufacturing, blah blah blah. That's stupid, blah blah blah.
There should be like a coffee grinder on there.
There offers fine customizable component mouthpieces for horn, as long as it's all horn parts, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba mouthpiece.
Sweet.
All you need to do is buy that mouthpiece, and you too can struggle in the high register like I do, and the Lance LaDuke Model euphonium mouthpiece.
Play it, and your IQ drops by 20 points.
Yes, but you become funny.
It's worth the trade-off.
Inadvertently, musically, and also intentionally, verbally. So
Wait, what?
You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com, or you can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So
Parker Mouthpieces.
Each week now we're going to get a new jingle. So
Use both lips.
and what about the beautiful people at Duquesne?
There are beautiful people at Duquesne. And in fact, they are so beautiful, they have become a sponsor of this fine podcast. And the folks at the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University, brass area in particular, are big supporters of the show and put their money where their mouth collectively was. And they are doing some very, very cool things there. The faculty, besides me, is made up of folks from the Pittsburgh Symphony, including Jim Nova and Chad Winkler and Zach Smith, who we interviewed not too long ago. We'll have to get the rest of the brass faculty on over the next few months. But just great folks. If you'd like to find out more about the program there's really cool stuff going on at Duquesne. You can check the link in the program, the show notes there, and that'll take you to a special page that outlines the brass goings-on that are going on at the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University in lovely and sunny, on a rainy day, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, sure.
Oh, cripes.
There you have it.
Cones and tones. From the Midwest, we'd play cones and tones and jam.
All right. So, I think our 12.5-minute intro is probably complete now. So
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Oh, cripes.
Yeah,
all right, then.
All right.
Gotta go have some hot dish. Have a good night there.
And so, without further ado, here is our conversation with the shockingly articulate, since she is a tuba player, Joanna Hersey. And today we are joined on the Brass Junkies by a good friend of both of ours, which I guess reflects poorly on our guest. But she is a badass tuba player and teacher and mother and human. Joanna Hersey. How are you doing this morning, Joanna?
I am well, you guys. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on.
It's our pleasure. So Joanna is in Indianapolis right now.
I am. A sunny but cool Indianapolis Saturday.
And what are you doing there?
I am here. The Music for All National Festival is this week. It's March. And so they bring in bands from all over the nation. And I have been clinicking. I think I worked with about 90 tuba players over the course of the last 2 or 3 days. And we bring them into tuba clinics. And so that's all I've been doing. And then you get to listen to the bands the rest of the time, which is great.
So get this. I have a friend. I have a friend. His name is Jonathan Phillips.
I know him. That's the only one, right? So
yeah, exactly. My friend Jonathan Phillips, who his band is out there. And he posted to his Instagram stories yesterday, he posted a video of his tuba players in a room full of tubas. And then the video scrolled over and you, well, no, you were in the shot for because, the Instagram stories are super short. You were in the shot for literally half of a second. And it was just just barely caught on the screen. And I was like, I wonder if that's Joanna. And it was. I mean, it was so quick that I couldn't even confirm that it was actually you. It just kind of it was your aura. So
luckily I'm already famous on Instagram, so that's a relief, because otherwise that would have been lame. Yeah.
There you
so
go.
It's been great. And I've been doing duets with them, and I danced the tango for them. Tom Holtz wrote a set of 3 duets for 2 tubas, 3 grooves. And I brought that first duet, which is a tango. And I said, okay, your tuba teacher's now going to dance the tango. So I don't know what they thought of that, especially the 8 a.m. ones.
So you stole Lance's bit. He always dances tango.
Does he dance it? Oh, Lance, you and I need to connect together.
A couple things here. So Koichiro Suzuki is a former student of mine at Duquesne, and we built a little ecosystem for him here in Pittsburgh where he had this band, I think it's still going. The band was called Cuidado. It was a tango band. He played euphonium in it.
I remember that. They
And
did
then-
NITEC or something, right?
And he also, and he teaches tango. And so the band would play for the live tango events, and then he would use the teaching studio to market the band, and the band to market the teaching studio. So
Yeah, that was a great example of innovation, right? Doing 2 things that you love in the same space. Yeah, awesome. So who knows what they thought of that here, these high school kids? But
who cares?
Well, and so the other,
you got to do rhythm and upbeats. So there you go.
the other interesting, well, to me, part is that my son is there. The Mount Lebanon High School Wind Ensemble,
Awesome.
of which he is a member, is there currently. And
So have you talked to him? Is he returning your calls? What's going on?
we've texted. In fact, I pulled it up because I asked if he, Dr. Tim Lotzenheiser gave a talk, and so
Yes.
I told him if he could to if he was near him, go tell him hi from me. But so I said, "Did you see Dr. Tim?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "What did you think of him?" I'm trying to find the email, or the text rather. He said, because I want to get it's
What are those short emails called that go straight to your phone?
fancy phone text.
It's
I
like
said,
a snapgram.
Did you guys hear Dr. Tim yet? If so, what did you think? Yes, period. He was weird. And then,
Well, Duncan, Dr. Tim told me that he thinks you're weird.
well, 4 hours later, he said, "Tim says hi, and you are one of the most interesting people he knows."
Oh, ouch.
Like, wow. Okay.
Lance, you are interesting. It's true.
Your father is interesting.
Interesting, right? Exactly. I asked about his master class. I said, "Who ran your master class?" He said, "Larry Z, I think." He has no idea. He's a trouble.
Right, they're clueless, right? It's okay.
And but he did say last night at 10 p.m., Andy freaking Martin. That's who I just got to hear live at a Jazz Band of America concert.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's trombone soloist with the band, the kids jazz band. Yeah, honor jazz band. So now he's awake at 10 p.m., right?
That's right. Yeah, middle of the day, he was like, "Meh."
So
10 o'clock.
the proper Dr. Tim response when Duncan said Lance LaDuke is my father would have been, does he know?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So he'll come home tired, but he'll have had a good time. The kids are all great. And this is one of the only places, which is interesting about it, where I don't also clinic euphonium. Right. Very often we would be doing our tuba euphonium thing jointly. And, that's wonderful, but it's got its challenges when you need to have treble clef handouts and you need to have all the different handouts. And so Adam Fry is here doing the euphonium. So they're off in a whole other part of the building, as they should be. Right. And we're in the basement, as we should be, all on our own. So it's one of the few times that I just get tubas, which is kind of cool.
There you go. I like stories.
Yeah, so there you go. That's what this show is all about.
So Joanna's first claim to fame was that she won a military band audition when she was like 12 or something like that. So
exactly.
Can you tell us about how you did that when you were like in 8th grade or something?
Right. Well, I was at Arizona State, so I had turned 18. I had graduated from high school, and
it's not what I heard.
Example, those stories, there's pre-Facebook back then too, right? So the moral of the story is, I think, one of those that you need to just go ahead and take the chance, because what happened was they had a tuba audition where they didn't choose a winner. And so they were targeting studios. They called Parentoni. They called a bunch of people. They said, we're having a second audition. Let's really fill it up. And so Parentoni sent a group of us from Arizona State, which is, again, you have to pay for that flight. And my family is in New England, so we stayed with my grandmother. But a few of us had to come up with that plane ticket, of course. And I went out with some more senior people, grad students even, and I was thinking, this is the part you don't want to do. I was thinking, I'll just tag along and see how it all works. And when I get cut immediately, that I can, go for coffee and we can hang out with my grandma, and that'll be great anyway, because I was far from home. But they got cut and I didn't. And so I actually hadn't really mentally prepared that part of it, which you really should do. Right. So I did end up winning by the end of the day, but I was the last one standing, and I was pretty young still, but I did go back. The funny part of that story is we all went to my grandmother's house afterwards, and she made split pea soup because she's a New Englander, and that's what you make, right? Split pea soup. So we all arrive at her house, all exhausted from the 15-hour audition day, right? And we've driven, and she opens the door, and I'm there, and she looks at me and she says, "So did you win it? What happened?" And I looked at her and I said, "I won it." And she said, "Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't." And come in and have some split pea soup. But she was a lady in the Depression, right? She grew up in the Depression era, and I was 19. I was a sophomore. I was still in beginning piano class, which I ditched to go take the audition.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know. I'm sorry, piano teacher lady. Anyway, so I was at the beginning, and she wanted me to finish school, and she valued the degree, and I totally can see that. But it's just not quite how it rolls for us, especially these days. But that was her response. I'll never forget it. It took me a second, but it was good, and I always credit the brass section in that band for getting me the rest of the way through what I would have learned had I stayed in school the rest of the time, because I left and went into the band young. I didn't have my undergraduate degree finished.
This is the Coast Guard band, by the way, which we haven't said that yet.
In New London, yes, the United States Coast Guard Band in New London, Connecticut, which is one of the premier service bands, even though it's outside of D.C. So they do a lot of the same type of things, concert tours and ceremonies and things. And so those brass players got me through. They never were disrespectful, but I was young, and they kind of would lean over and say, I'm going to take a breath right here. Or I'm going to work on keeping this note lower, or whatever.
Your grandmother was right.
I know. So it was great because and I do miss some parts of the military life. I did 7 years, and then I got out and went to other things. And the one part that I do miss is playing with such great euphonium and trombone sections as just a routine. Because you often play, my career is more freelance now, and so it's often not the same trombone section from time to time. And when a section's been playing together strongly for so long, they really do have it down. So I do miss that part of it, and the having good euphoniums right to hand always for quartet, which you don't always get.
Do you think there was some advantage? I mean, I wonder if you had known more, would you have done as well? I don't mean, I just mean you didn't know to be nervous. You didn't know to be all worked up. You didn't have this whole I wasn't worried about paying the mortgage because I wanted to get married and buy a house. And I think that it made me freer because I hadn't built up the anxiety. Yeah. You just played, right? You just went and played.
Right. And there was a little bit of discussion about, I think what won the day was maybe the thought that, well, if she's this young and she's got it together this much, then she might be a good risk kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I hadn't had the pedigree. I really hadn't done much of anything.
Oh, crazy.
But it worked out.
Well, there you go. Oh. Well, I'm out of questions. How about you?
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it. She's too happy. It's like,
so why did
it's grating. So it's really grating.
Why did you get out?
There's the nicest lady at the Starbucks downstairs in the lobby of the hotel, and she got me all hooked up with a latte for our conversation today. So that's my peppiness. I am peppy before a latte, but especially afterwards. Why did I get out is the question on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Just go. Why don't you ask yourself some questions?
I'm good to go. Okay, no, Lance put something to the floor. And the answer
floor. What are you, Granger? What the hell's happening?
Okay. Where do I work? Where do I work, gentlemen?
Where?
At a university. What do you do when you work at a university? You go to meetings, and you have expressions like, so-and-so has a question on the floor. Okay,
I think you said to the fore.
Well, that too. Isn't that a march? Do we have a right? Anyway, okay.
What is that from Robert's Rules of Infighting or whatever it's called?
Robert's Rules of Getting Tenure, right? Yeah. Okay, so
happening. It's like a Harry Waters interview.
This is all of a sudden like a Harry Waters, except she's not. Except she's not walking around. Yeah,
Andy knows this already, but the thing about this is tuba players, nobody ever talks to us. And so we're so excited to have the floor at the 4 that we just go. So quote from the masterclass yesterday. This is digressing, but I will get back to Lance's open-ended question on the floor.
I doubt it.
So I have 27 tuba players in my clinic, like you saw me for 2 seconds on Instagram. And now I'm so relieved because I wasn't famous before. And so the 27 tuba players are in there. And we're playing all the time. I have them doing arpeggios, and then I have them doing that tango. But some of the clinicians work differently here. So I stopped at one point and I said to them, it'll be interesting for you to talk afterwards to your colleagues in your bands who play flute or clarinet or horn and see how their clinics went. Maybe they got to play in front of the group as a soloist. You guys are doing duets, and it's kind of fun to compare how the different clinicians work. And then one of the guys says, well, we don't really talk to them. I said, oh, okay, well, you can compare notes with each other because they sit in clumps. It's the most hysterical thing. 4 of them come in from a high school. It's 27 people in the room, and they sit exactly in the same section.
That's exactly what the video I saw showed.
This is where we have to sit. And so he looks at the guy next to him, and he says, we don't even really talk to each other.
They sit in the clump when they're alone.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Tuba players, it's a pressure thing. Anyway,
did you say to him, you're single, aren't you, sweetie?
And they're all, it's one of the great things about this is that Lance, you probably had to work on this too. They dress up the kids. There's a dress code. So like your son had to get collared shirts and such and things. Yeah. And it's wonderful because where do you see 27 high school students wearing ties and jackets and dress shoes anywhere, anytime? You see them in concert dress or pants.
Juvie.
Private teaching studio need an upgrade, right? That's part of your no. So these kids look great.
Duncan hasn't looked this nice since his misdemeanor trial.
She set me up.
Wish that was a joke.
Okay. So they look great besides. So they look like they're not tuba players, I guess is where I was going with that. They were in the time.
So this is all from why did you leave the Coast Guard band? This is good.
Okay. Right. No, the question on the floor is yes, why did I leave the Coast Guard band? And the answer to that is because I had done 7 years, but I was still only about 27. And I hadn't done anything else. I had not had time to do summer orchestra. I had not had time to get advanced degrees. I hadn't really had a chance to go out and about. And I was still single and childless. And I thought, this is the time. So I got out and went to school and did the master's at NEC with Chester Schmitz and the doctorate at Hart full-time straight through. And that took 7 years. And there was a 7-year stretch there where I private taught, I freelanced, I worked at a coffee shop. I had all kinds of jobs and I got through all of that. And then once I finished the DMA, then I was a little more marketable. And that's how I ended up with the college teaching job. But there was that leap of faith where I had to get out of the band without having another job. And I think that if you're 27 and childless and you're able-bodied and you're willing to go work at the coffee shop, which is what I went and did, there's nothing wrong with that. But one of the things that I look back on now as being important about that time is that I was well-educated and young and energetic, obviously, and I had most of my mentors advise me against it. Peers, people in the band that were maybe a little bit older, and that any group is like that, be it a university faculty or an orchestra or a band or what have you, they tend to value the decision that they have made over the others. There's nothing wrong with that. That's natural. And so there's a sense that if you're going to do something different, and the military is so tempting, you have that delicious retirement at the end and all that wonderful health care, which was a problem then when I was in and is going to be a problem again. So it's really tempting to say to this poor young girl who happens to play the tuba, are you sure? I had people tell me I was going to lose my house and that it was too much of a risk. And that's valid. But I didn't have as many people say, go for it. And I have a story about that, actually, which is one of the things that I want us to do for our 27-year-olds in our lives that are asking us for advice, who don't have the family responsibilities. I had to break the news to my family that I was going to leave the Coast Guard. I had no job of any kind. And about the month before I had finally finished, I had been chipping away at my undergraduate degree at UConn nearby. The Huskies, go Huskies. And so I drove an hour to UConn, and I finished a degree while I was in the Coast Guard band because I knew I was going to do the master's anyway, and just to kind of finish that up. So I had finally earned an undergraduate degree, but I really couldn't do anything other than a lot of arpeggios. And so I was going to go tell my family I'm getting out of the Coast Guard with no gig. I've enrolled in school full time. And this was the woman, right, the grandmother who didn't want me to do it in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I was nervous about that conversation. And what happened was I went to tell them, and there were family friends visiting, and the family friends had lived next door all of my grandparents' lives in a small little town in Massachusetts, which Acton, Massachusetts, which is west of the city a little bit. It used to be the middle of nowhere, and now it's more of a pricey sort of a suburb.
I grew up in the town next door.
But at the time, Acton was the forest, kind of. And so my grandparents grew up next to a man who was a bomber pilot in World War II and who was in the plane behind the Enola Gay, which is the plane that dropped the bomb. And so the two planes were going together, and the backup plane was for support and measuring. And so he was in the backup plane. And so they felt the blast, and they kind of had the emotional, overwhelming nature of what they had just done. They had dropped the bomb, and more than 100,000 were going to lose their lives, and the war would eventually end because of it. And how much of that they knew, who knows? But this gentleman had been in that experience and then had come to Acton, Mass, and spent the rest of his life in the house next to my grandparents. And he was in the room when I came in, and I said, I'm going to get out. And he was an older person. And when you're young, you tend to have this sense that older people are going to advise for you to play it safe. So I was nervous about telling them. And I said, guys, this is my decision. And he looked at me and he said, security is a myth. Mm. You should just go for it.
Wow. There's a truth bomb.
Right.
Wow.
And I
and then your grandma decked him.
Right. So I had always loved them as an extra set of grandparents. And his nerves were somewhat shot after that experience in the war. Those pilots went through a lot. And so he was always somebody that I viewed as fragile because he had to sort of have help later, having gone through that in the PTSD, we would call it today. So I looked at this older gentleman in the eye, and he looked across his world of experience at me, a young girl with a tuba, and said, security is a myth, just go for it. Mm. And that was one of the only times that I was given that permission, which is what I think we need to remember to do. And I was fine, and I am fine, but I'm happier now than I would have been if I had felt I had to play it safe. So I always look back at that and think that was an important moment for him to pass to me.
What's interesting is that both Lance and I got out of Boston Brass, 5 months after Lance did, but we officially decided at the same time. But both of us, when we were thinking about getting out and were talking to people we were close to get advice, both of us were advised by some pretty smart people to not leave. So. And pretty and only an hour in trying to best serve us and be in our best interest, but adamantly, some people told us to not leave. So and I think Boston Brass would tell you that it was a good decision, and we would both tell you it's a good decision, and it's it needed to. And of course, now that it's been over 3 years, it's hindsight is 2020, right. But it was the best possible decision for him, for me, for them. It's an absolute no-brainer. If you could see the end, then not a single person would have said you shouldn't do that. But it is a little crazy when you want to leave a band like that. It's like,
and we don't want to advise our young people to do things for short bursts of time and move around a lot. That's not what it is. But one of the things, when you listen to this podcast, for example, one of the things you notice when anybody of stature is interviewed is you notice them taking risk and making change. I moved across the country to do this. I quit this and went home because my parents were ill. I started over in city B or C or D. And there are some students that I have, for example, whose whole entire family has never moved from the place that they've been years before. And so sometimes it's important for us to emphasize, I think, taking that bit of risk, which isn't in the end all that unsafe, because we could all go work at the grocery store if we had to when we're young and able-bodied. So I feel like sometimes that suspicion of change can be misplaced.
Yeah. You just popped a memory bubble for me. I had a job at a mailbox store, a mom and pop mailbox store when I was at ASU, and there was a girl that worked there who was a student at ASU, and she grew up less than 100 miles from Philadelphia, and she had lived there for 18 years and had literally never been to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I remember that just absolutely blew my mind because of music I had traveled so much that it just and it was just but yeah, it can be hard when that frame of reference, and boy, somebody that won a job, you were a 1%er. I mean, if it's like the someone that actually collects a regular paycheck, whether it be Boston Brass or the Coast Guard or the Seattle Symphony. And so it's on paper, it's a stupid idea to leave that. I mean, it's a really bad idea. And yet, here all three of us sit. So Lance quits like everything. It's like that's all he does. I can't believe that we're still doing this podcast together.
I quit the River City Brass twice.
Yeah, yes. I've dropped out of 2 master's degrees.
Quitting.
The only reason I dropped out of my second master's degree was because I just want to be like Lance. He's my idol. So I was like, I've never quit anything twice. So let me try this. And there you go. I thought I felt better for 5 minutes. It was like eating a big piece of cheesecake, and then I just felt gross. Mm-hmm. So, but so thanks, Lance.
Mm-hmm. The little things.
It's the little things. I'm glad that I finally got it out that you're my idol. So that it feels good to be on record.
One of the things that I think that brings up is this sense that the risk gets easier as you age, as far as having taken a lot of risk.
That's right.
But the stakes go up.
You sure do.
Right? When you're in your 40s versus your 20s, you are thinking about the risk differently.
Yeah.
But I think we shouldn't advise against taking it.
Yeah.
Even when we're more established.
It depends on the lens that you're looking at it through. If the only lens you're looking at is job security or financial security, then to leave one of the military band jobs that's the last thing you would do on the planet.
You wouldn't even have been in Tuba in the first place.
Well,
if that was your lens, yeah.
Well,
but you're right. If you figure that out too late and you already played the tuba, right?
And with that lens, I was just listening to a piece on NPR yesterday talking about how there are a number of MBA programs that enrollment is down like 40-50% in just the last 5 years because there's a saturation of MBAs, and about how that there's kind of been a little bit of a bubble there, and that the security thing, it's like, my goodness, the days of my dad, he did change jobs, but my dad worked for Digital Equipment Corporation, which became Compaq, which became Hewlett Packard, but it was all the same company. But he did that for 30 years, and he didn't and he didn't actually get a gold watch, but there was like a retirement package, and there was like a ceremony and all that stuff. I mean, in those days are. I think the average person now that has nothing to do with music has like 7 jobs in their career. Like the average successful person today works for 7 different companies.
As Lance was alluding to, we're putting value on things outside of this sort of regular idea. The corporate idea of going for a higher amount of power, a higher amount of freedom, and a higher amount of dollars isn't necessarily in the arts quite the same. But I think the higher amount of freedom is something that we would probably all say that we're looking for, creative freedom in that case, to do more of what we want to do without criticism.
Mm-hmm. I just interviewed, by the time this comes out, it will be released, but I just interviewed a woman for the Entrepreneurial Musician. Her name is Dana Fontenot, and she wrote a book that's called It's Not Just the Gig, and the subtitle is about the mindset you need to make it in the music business. Anyone who's listening to this, it's short, it's incredible. It's $10 on Kindle. Like, buy the book. It asks you all kinds of questions about figuring out your why and who you are and all that stuff. But one of the phrases that she just used in that interview, which I loved, was external shoulds, which was like when other people tell you what you should do and that you should have this and you should do that and that you're only 13 years away from from your full retirement of with the Coast Guard, and so you should stick around, and the external shoulds, which are what, like, society, whether society means the whole whether it means the United States or even just society, meaning like the low brass,
your workplace,
or professional musicians in general. But when external shoulds kind of steer the ship for you, she was much more articulate about this. But it was
I don't know
great.
how you guys feel, but I feel like, especially as a woman, the external shoulds, I'm pushing them out of the way. Just getting up and getting a coffee, like
right.
refilling my coffee cup. Like they're just sort of they can seem to be coming all the time. And some of them you should stop and think about, right? Don't change jobs every year. Right?
Sure.
But it is interesting. And that's why I love that book report, the component of that broadcast, because I think some of us we're feeling a little guilty that we're too busy to read or even listen. And so it's nice that you're giving us a little bit of a sense of what is being written and how we can stop for a second and think about that,
right.
Incorporate it.
Yeah. So have you, well, I know the answer to this, but have you, I was going to say, have you experienced sexism, in the brass world? That's the dumbest question I've ever asked on this podcast, because the answer is yes, because you're a woman and you actually... you produce things and you have opinions, which means that a lot of people don't appreciate that necessarily. But if you're free to, can you comment on that? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is it the same? Is that not a question to ask?
No, it's good. And the answer to that is yes, because unfortunately I don't meet the mold of what we expect tuba excellence to look like. Whether I reach tuba excellence or not is a different debate, but right. Tuba excellence looks like a certain thing. And when tuba excellence walks into a clinic or walks into an orchestra, tuba excellence is supposed to look a certain way, right? And if I don't match that, and neither do other minority groups, right? If the minority group in whatever it is, in flute, it might be the other way, right? The gender minority. If it doesn't match the expectations, there's risk on behalf of the person, right? The person is thinking this could be the same tuba excellence we get from the other thing, but it could not be. And so coming up against that, it's unexpected. Now, usually, and there's a thing that, this is one of the things that Parent Tony always emphasized with me too. Like if you can get in the room, and Chester as well, I think that's something that probably is a good thing to mention to anybody who is in a minority category, that if you can get in the room and do your thing, awesome. The problem might be getting in the room, right? It might be getting to do the clinic. Once I'm here, I can show them I can do great clinics, but if I'm not able to get in the room. And another interesting thing, because now I've got a viewpoint of 20 years or so in the field, and another thing that I have noticed is that it has to do a bit with youth. And I think this would be an interesting conversation for a whole other day, but the being young and a little talented and sort of cute as a young person is pretty easily dismissible, I think, by people who are what is now my age, people in the middle of the career, the ones with most of the power that are doing the booking and that are ready, all of that. And I think that there's a sense that they're just starting out, so they're close to college and they're probably still practicing a lot and whatever. And I found that as I have aged, I actually encounter it more than I did when I was younger. And I don't know why. Maybe I seem to be more on their level. I just, for example, last month in an undisclosed location, for the sake of the innocent, I actually had somebody who was running an event where I was hired get up in my face somewhat violently because they perceived something that I was doing as something that was not what they wanted. And so I was there at a coffee break at a conference. And he kind of got up, and you know how people will point their finger in the air, they'll kind of stab their finger in the air when they're making a point. He was kind of up in my face doing that to me, and he was very angry.
Goodness. And
there was a man horn player next to me, and we kind of both were stepping back, and I'm good at conflict resolution, right? I kind of have to be. So I was saying, certainly, sir, of course. I have no intention of doing anything he was saying, but I was saying, certainly, sir, of course, no problem. Certainly, of course. And just like, get out of here, right? And I kind of have that experience every so often, and that may or may not be sexist, but I don't think that you would have been approached that way if it had been you as the tuba clinician.
I never have once.
Right. And so the horn player that was next to me, bless his heart, as we say it, in a good way, he actually was so bothered by it that he went to the person afterwards to complain, unbeknownst to me, because I, rightly or wrongly, was going to let it go. He hired me, whatever. So I could choose to do that gig or not, right, the next time it comes around. So the horn player was so upset that he actually had him come and apologize, and we somewhat smoothed it over. But I think it's one of those things that I sort of have to accept, I shouldn't, but it's a reality that a situation like that can occur in a way being talked down to. I've been told, for example, that I must not like men, which there's a whole segment of the population that may not like men, but we still have to work with them, right? So, I mean, it's not funny, but it is, you know.
Players, but we got to work with them.
Right, I mean, you know. So,
Wow.
you know, why would you say to a pretty well-known tuba soloist that she comes across like she doesn't like men? What is the purpose of that comment? The purpose is to push you away and to make you other.
It's to put you in a box because it's easier for them to wrap their brains around how you've somehow managed to luck into all this success.
And the person that said that is somebody my same age who runs a lot of brass booking.
Wow.
Who is somebody that represents, so it kind of, how has it affected you, what have you. If you were strong enough to just turn, like, I don't have to work for that guy again who got in my face because I can book other gigs. And so it's fine, but it is there.
Wow.
And I think we have a sense, the same with racism, we have a sense that this is all getting better now because time is passing. We have a sense that we know we used to be bad at gender discrimination and racism, but it's better now. And I think that while it might be a little better, it's not a lot better. And so I think we really need to recognize how we consciously or unconsciously box people, like you were saying. We feel scared about our career choice, especially in classical music. We feel worried about the amount of money that is being given out to people playing the tuba or brass players. And I think there's a sense that I need it all for myself. So it is sort of a whole separate conversation, but I do feel that I have to steel myself, for example, to kind of go where no one knows me, so that, because in case I have a weird event like that, and then I have to let it roll off so that I can be pleasant, because we don't want to be that person who complains all the time, right? We want to be happy.
Jeez.
That's who we want to hire.
To be clear, I keep saying wow, not because I'm surprised. It's always surprising to me when I hear like a friend who's relaying specific incidences, you know, which is why it's always shocking to me, and I know it happens, but it's jarring to hear that crap. You know, Lance, I have an episode idea for you and I. Lance, you and I should do a conversation about sexism and racism in the brass world, because nobody could give better insights than two straight white males. You know, we're like the poster children for privilege, but we could probably offer some insights to the people. What do you think?
I think it's a brilliant idea. I think that's what made us what we are today.
It's all that we've had to overcome.
Speaking global.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are thinkers, and you're producing content that causes other people to become thinkers, and so that's all we need to do. We just need to consider it. So I taught this clinic this week. I'm in Indianapolis. I'm still in my hotel room drinking my latte with you all. And I worked with about 90 tuba students over the course of 3 days from all over the country. We had kids as far away as Hawaii here this week. And of the 90 tuba players, I wrote it down, I think there were 11 girls. So maybe, slightly over 10%. So this is middle school and high school. And these are programs that, because this is an awesome festival to come to, they're programs that have it together enough to fundraise, and they've probably got good booster support. And these are the programs that probably are the most inclusive and welcoming anyway. And, the some of them that can get out on the road and have a program of strength. And we're still only seeing about a 10%. So that's kind of where I was going with the comment of, we think we've fixed it. But I have 28 college majors this year. I'm teaching at 2 universities this year. And I have 28 college majors, and 3 of them are girls. 3 of the 20, I know. Yeah, that's why I need the latte. I might have to go get another one, and we'll pause it. No.
I wouldn't need a latte. I need a therapist.
So my therapy time is I drove from North Carolina to Indianapolis on Wednesday. And it's a 10-hour drive, because with the tuba, I try to drive if I can. And so my therapy is actually I listened to some of the podcasts. I got a little caught up on the podcast, you guys' podcast.
Thanks.
So it's kind of nice. I drove through the West Virginia mountains with you both on Wednesday.
Hey, with us thinkers. Yeah, Lance and I, neither one of us has heard a single word you've said since you called us thinkers.
I'm looking it up.
Is she condescending us? With her 3 degrees?
Yeah.
So how do you counsel your female students, or what do you do? Like, you're in a position now to share this experience. So do you have a systematic way? It's a case by case basis, or are there generalities or things you kind of coach them on or talk about?
And, I feel like with gender, that's almost a side issue to the personality type. Are they, and not that being a go-getter is something that you have to project outwardly, because you can be a go-getter and be the quiet kid in the back, right? But the personality of being forward-moving, Chester Schmitz used to call it being a quick person, not that you're just dashing into traffic, but your fingers move quickly on the valves. Your brain is moving quickly to look ahead, this sense of being quick about things. And I think that those people do better. And if you can become that, if you can be a little quicker. So the personalities that are naturally a little more aggressive as far as doing what they need to do and finding solutions, there are certain people that you might find as students are a little more passive. They're waiting for something to come to them. And in low brass, that's a little tricky because you can sit in band all day and play whole notes without a lot of challenge in a way that our clarinet and flute comrades never could do. So you still get some of those kind of backseat type of drivers in the college studios because they've never quite been turned on yet. So I think that what I'm looking for in the girls and the boys, but especially the girls, is to make sure that I can turn them into being aggressive enough that they won't give up when somebody's in their face. When the equivalent of that conversation that I had, both of those incidents just happened in the last 3 months of somebody coming up to me and saying, some of us in the brass community here think that you hate men, perfectly seriously. That kind of thing happening to them won't derail them. God. Or somebody saying, why would a pretty girl like you have a big thing like that? You have to carry around. That's an innocent enough comment. People think they're being cute.
But that's a compliment. They're calling you pretty.
They find you cute, right? But what that does is it separates you out because the rest of the tuba community isn't cute.
Oh, yeah, look at Andrew.
Yeah.
I know. So,
Notice we don't host a video podcast.
Right.
I did my hair, you guys. Okay, no. So
we weren't making fun. I wasn't making fun of the appearance of our guests. I was pointing out that Lance and I don't host a video podcast. Yeah. So
I mean, and we're making light of it, but it isn't funny. But
somehow I feel offended now. I'm gonna need to stop. I need a little me time.
I love when Lance comes in because there's sort of a quiet moment, and then there'll be the philosopher will speak.
Yeah.
Right? We'll go back, and we're back. Okay.
The thinker philosopher.
In my students, I'm looking to develop that side of them that is going to be a seeker, that is going to go out and be aggressive. Because then if I see that in them, then I can be assured that they're going to go over the bump. Or if I'm in North Carolina, I'm really lucky that one of my schools, UNC Pembroke, we have a 53% enrollment of minority students. And so I am able to advise some students who are first generation college students, and the racial makeup of my studio is wonderfully mixed. And the same with all of the students. I would feel like, look, you got to be quick enough to move forward despite somebody kind of trying to diss you, and let that roll off. And if you're already laying kind of back in your career, that could derail you. We don't want that.
Wow. Well, there's a couple of people who turned this episode off as soon as I said the word sexism. So, and those are the people who you have to make sure your students are quick to,
dodge them.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So,
it's unfortunate, but I think that it would be an incomplete conversation if it didn't come up.
Sure.
Because it is something that I do encounter. The way I choose to dress and the way I choose to live my life, it should probably come up in a conversation with me.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, and the fact that, the fact that I've never had a single person in my entire career even border on talking to me like you described that gentleman last month, that's not just like shockingly good luck, and it's not because I'm so much easier to work with than you are, and it's not because I mean I am. I mean I don't know anyone that's as easy to work with as me.
I'm CD with you, man.
Did you people get my rider? Says everyone who's a guest on a tuba quartet recording session. Yeah. That's well, thank you so much for those insights. That's and it's obviously something that you're passionate about, as you have to be. But well, excuse me, you don't have to be. So it's great that you are. So
you could choose not to mention it. And I have to say that I thought about that ahead of this interview, because if you hadn't asked me about it, was I going to bring it up? Because there is that sense that, oh, now she's going to complain about whatever, and we don't want to look like we're bemoaning anything.
I didn't hear you complain about a thing. Yeah, you didn't complain.
And I am. One of the things that I have now begun to do is I have taken on the presidency of the International Women's Brass Conference, which is an organization that Susan Slaughter founded 25 years ago. She played principal trumpet in the St. Louis Symphony for a whole career. and she's still very much active. And she didn't know many women brass players and wanted to connect and to restore each other and to play. And so she founded the organization, and they have conferences every couple of years. There's competitions. That's something that I am very much a believer in. It is for men as well. That's another thing that happened. I posted on Facebook the other day about how proud I was to have this conference. It's for men, it's for women, students, teachers, adults, amateurs, professionals. We're trying to be very inclusive. That's the whole idea, right? And of course, everybody underneath, oh, this is great, tagging their friends. Do you know about this? There's prize money. And somebody wrote, when are we going to have the conference for men? And then I didn't reply. It's like, I didn't reply to that, of course. And so then underneath they put a like question mark, like, hey, you going to answer that? Because the answer to that is every other conference.
I made the mistake the other day was International Women's Day. I made the mistake of searching on.
Lance, you had to tell Andy, no computer on International Women's Day.
Well, I made the mistake of searching on Twitter that day for International Men's Day, and the number of people who said, when are we going to get an International Men's Day? November 19th is International Men's Day, you freaking idiots. Yeah, Google it, you morons. There already is one, So anyway, we may or may not have had to have rescheduled the podcast for one of us who happens to live here to go to the Women's March. So, and they didn't kick me out. So anyway, I just pissed off some of our listeners. But there you have it. So,
but you just made some new listeners.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now we're about to be rich and famous, Lance.
You are any minute.
Wait for it. Do you feel like do you feel like you have to work harder? And the reason I ask you that is you've already listed 4 full-time jobs that you have, and you're on a gig in Indianapolis. So is that
I'm going to be in Arizona at the SWRTech in like a minute? Yeah, I do, and I think that would be an answer that anybody who was a minority of whatever type, whether it was the male harpist or whatever it is, I think that there can't be a time when I accidentally sucked that day. Right? I can't get up in front of the clinic and be having a bad day because I represent women tuba players everywhere, which is cool, but there's not enough of us, so we're not heard all the time. Brass players in general, even extending outward, classical musicians of a soloist nature. It's anytime a minority gets up, many people in that space will not yet have an image for what is this particular race, this particular gender, this particular ethnicity. What do they do when playing the French horn? How does it sound? There's a sense that it's going to be different because remember, we didn't fit the picture of what the money looks like. So I do have a sense that if I am not on it, then I'm somehow letting the side down. Now, this is my personal choice. Nobody has to be as busy as me. I actually like being on the road. And it's not that if you are home a lot, you are a bad person. I do like to travel.
You'll get over that.
Yeah. Sorry, you're breaking up.
Yeah, right.
So how do you balance the travel with the teaching? Because you have a lot of students.
Like
I do.
28?
And so, it's really going to be over soon. And I've done a second 1-year position that will only be this 1 year. And so then I'll go back to normal next fall with one university, I promise. Yeah. And what it is compartmentalizing. You just have to make sure I'm never going out for 3 weeks at a time. I'm going out for 3 or 4 days, maybe 5, and I'm coming home for at least a week. I can get everybody a lesson, right? Get all caught back up with their situation. What do you need from me? Can I coach your tuba quartet? How are we doing on recital committee planning, right? Where are your program notes? And then I might go out again. I'm going to the SWRTech next weekend, but in between now and the SWRTech, I'm going to be home. And so people will all get a lesson. Then I'm going to be back, and then I'll go to the Washington State University one next month, but I'll be home in between to teach. So I like it. It's a good balance for me. So
SWRTech, that really rolls off the tongue.
I love it. And the NWRTech.
SWRTech.
Congrats to the SWRTech people. That's happening now. This is going to air later, but as we're recording, the SWRTech is happening, and they're doing great stuff down there. So congrats to them.
Guess what? Lance and I are doing a live Brass Junkies at NWRTech. Yeah, like at the bar, the late night hang. So
I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah.
So I might have to step in if things get rowdy. You just let me know.
Yeah,
fair enough.
There you go.
I'll wave my notes at them and be like, get back on task. Yeah, okay.
So before we run out of time, can you tell us about Jam?
Jam. So Michael Parker.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, right. Many of us might know from being fans of this show that Michael Parker is the Parker of Parker Mouthpieces, one of the sponsors of this show. And Michael Parker and I have no connection whatsoever. He did not go to school with me, like he might have with some. He did not.
I lived with him.
I know, right?
He told me you thought you were pretty good for a girl.
I know, right?
Let's start a fight or anything.
He also said that you had no connection, spiritual or musical or otherwise. So
it's always Lance. It's always the quiet ones. Okay, so I invited Michael to come to my university and do a demonstration of the mouthpieces. And this was before he and I had any connection. We had a social media connection, and that's what I'm somebody that, if you know me, you know I love social media. I love taking pictures. That's one of the things I enjoy. And Michael Parker and I had a relationship as friends on social media only. And I invited him down on the strength of that. And so the first time I ever met him was in the hotel lobby, picking him up to do the clinic in Pembroke. And you guys have both been to Pembroke. The hotel's in the middle of some cornfields, and you drive across the railroad tracks and you're there. So at the end of the couple of days, Michael Parker went home, and I went into my office where the administrative assistant, who is Cindy, and she is a rock star. She, like many universities, it would just have to close if she was ever not there. She runs us all. She looked at me and she said, "You and Michael need to work together." And I said, because she's really smart and she runs us all. So I said, so then the next day he emailed me and he said, "Do you want to make a duo? And do you want to make a CD? And I've got some thoughts, and would you like to get together?" We were both going to be at the Army conference not long after that. And so could we, and I would just thought that was so great. So I went running back to Cindy and I said, Michael Parker and I are forming this duo. So it was really fun because I've never ever played in chamber music with somebody that I didn't know well, right? That's somebody that I wasn't, all right, my quartet has been playing in the Coast Guard band together forever. I have brass quintet. I've been teaching with them for 10 years, right? It's kind of interesting when you start with a total stranger. And so he and I had some great planning meetings. So Jam, Joanna, and Michael is a duo, and we play tubas as well as euphonium. He's a chimbasso specialist. And so the chimbasso is sort of a large bass trombone type of event that stands on the floor by itself. And so
event. Did you know that the iPhone?
I was like, how do I describe a chimbasso? Okay, so
did you know that when you type chimbasso into an iPhone, that it not only shows that it's misspelled, but it says no replacements found?
You should try making a CD with it. Okay. Anyway, so Michael Parker is a sweet, wonderful person, and he is doing what I'm doing. He's soloing and he's teaching at university. And so both of us have had a lot of fun. We made a demo album, which is almost out. I've been playing some euphonium right on it too. That was one of the things I was hoping to do more of in quartet settings, because I always play bottom tuba in my quartet. So my goals were to be able to expand some euphonium stuff for quartet, which I'd never done. And that's when you two, the listeners might not know because it's not out yet, but these two guys came in and played with Michael and I, and we've got 3, I think, quartet tracks. That's all we could fight our way through. Right? No, 3 quartet tracks on the album with Lance and Andy, and they were a lot of fun to work with. It was really great. So we want to thank you for that, coming in and keeping us sane.
We did sound good.
We were. Yeah. We didn't pour it in.
You can't see him, but he says that with such a wonderful grin. Such a lovely grin.
One of my favorite Boston brass stories was Jose.
How long did it take? Almost an hour. Okay, go ahead.
Jose has a colleague in Miami who was playing on a gig. He was a lead trumpet player, and there happened to be 2 of these lead-esque guys on the same gig, and one of them was infamous for being a real piece of work. And this guy at the end of the gig, he packs up, he puts his horn on his shoulder, and then he says to Jose's friend, like almost like begrudgingly, he said, "You sound good, but I sound good too." And then he walked out. It's like the most trumpet moment in history. Like, the guy sounded good enough that he had to admit it, but he wanted to be clear. So do I. And then he got into, I'm guessing, a BMW and drove home. So
that's like the opposite of what happened with Lance and I in the euphonium section. It was kind of like more like, "I'm sorry, man. No, that's okay. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Okay, no, that's all right. I'm sorry."
Joanna's like, I don't play euphonium that much. And Lance is like, "I haven't played in 3 weeks."
I can't even spell euphonium.
I have to say, Lance, though, one of the nice moments from that recording session, because even if you're well prepared, recording you can be tense, but you're paying for that time. You want to get it done. You don't want to waste the people's time. And I was nervous about a line, and I wrote it, so it's my own fault. But I wanted it to go really well, and I was working on it, and I said something along the lines of, I'm having trouble hearing how our euphonium balance is. And Lance, you looked at me and you said, nobody can hear anything when they play euphonium. And it made me feel a lot better. So we were going to go out of that. See? Thank you. Yeah. Right. One of the things I want to mention, too, before we run out of time, is on the subject of Jam and Michael Parker, that he and I have collaborated, like you both have done, to have a Joanna Hersey artist tuba model mouthpiece.
That was my next. Thanks for stealing. Do you want to just host the rest of this?
Yeah, I got it.
Go ahead.
So the Joanna Hersey artist model mouthpiece for tuba from Parker Mouthpieces is now available. We debuted it at that was my fast talking thing because I had to shut the Bostonian out right to do that.
You did good, especially for a girl. Yeah.
And having lived in the South for 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can't understand me at all down there, but it's all good. So the mouthpiece is awesome. If I'm not biased at all. It's on the larger side, and if you go to the Parker Mouthpieces website, you can see Andy's, you can see Lance's, and you can see mine. Parker Mouthpieces come with components, so you can get your rim and your cup and your shank size that you want, and they're great. Also, you can visit the Women's Brass Conference because we're having a conference. It's at Rowan University in June, and that is iwbc2017.com. We have competitions, and the top prize money is $5,000. Brass, all brass. Men, women, no professional amateur category. There's age categories, but it's mock orchestra, mock band, solo, anything you got. So there's a website with all of that on there. So we would love to see competitors. That would be great.
Where is Rowan University?
It's in Glassboro, New Jersey, in southern New Jersey. So it's a good East Coast location for those of us that are already there. And if you have any questions, you can email me about that because I am president, as we determined.
President.
As I declared.
I have declared.
They don't know.
They don't know.
I'm also emperor of the International Women's Brass Conference.
We will make
Chief Conquistador.
Grand Poobah.
Grand Poobah, yeah. I wear many hats.
Jam, Joanna, and Michael is going to play, so there you go. We didn't invite you to, but it's okay. We're going to play without you. It won't be the same.
Yeah.
I don't appear on conferences where there's Chimbasso. It's a religious thing. So.
Oh, it's all right. We'll survive without you. We'll wait for the bar episode from the Nurtec.
Yeah,
right.
the bar episode. I think it's gonna be more like the bar incident.
Event, the bar event.
Right, watch CNN the day after. So, anything else you want to plug, madam?
No, that was it. That was my plugging.
All right. What was your barista's name this morning? Any idea?
Oh, no, sorry. She was really sweet, though. I looked in the eye and I said, thank you, because she was very fast, and I had to get back up here and get set. So, bless her heart.
And then
we were my kid roaming around the halls there. Make sure he gets back on the bus to come home.
Right. Drink some water, has his horn, right? All that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to make sure he's on the bus. Let's just even care about the trombone, right? We got another one.
15-year-old boy.
Yeah, sorry.
He's a smart one too, but that doesn't even matter.
Oh my gosh.
Over there, yeah.
It's all gonna be fine. Just keep checking your phone.
Mm-hmm.
It'll all be good.
So speaking of people that need some tender loving care,
what on the immature side,
our friend, our dear friend Jens Lindemann, who does not drive a BMW, he drives a Porsche. What would you say to Jens with he's obviously battling some very well publicized chop problems, and so I'm just wondering, with all that you've had to deal with in the business, it seems like you might be in a unique position to be able to offer up some support, in the face of adversity. So. Even though his is imaginary and yours is very real, but maybe if you could give Jens some advice.
If one were in the face of adversity, one would do two things. One would go and get Ben and Jerry's.
He has a face of adversity. His face is adversity.
Adversity. You're going to get some Ben and Jerry's. And now I happen to be a vegan. So Ben and Jerry's has got 4 or 5 plant-based options now. I know that just turned off the rest of the listenership that was actually still hanging on from before. Right? Okay, sorry.
Sexism was one thing.
I'm tracking.
The Women's March was strike 2, but now she's talking about plant-based ice cream. She's a whack job.
Okay, so Ben and
We
Jerry.
could go into religion next. That would be awesome.
I know, right? Okay. And then we'll do politics. No, okay. So Ben and Jerry's, you got to get, I'm a Vermonter, remember. So Ben and Jerry's is made in Vermont. You can get it from cows or not, right? It's up to you. And it's all delicious. So you got to have Ben and Jerry's first. And so you have Ben and Jerry's, and your flavor choice is up to you. And then Bag Balm.
Bag Balm.
That's a good idea.
Bag Balm. Bag Balm is a product that is also made in Vermont.
Yes.
It is a cow udder cream for when the cow udders are chapped and sore.
Mm-hmm.
So any self-respecting tuba player uses it as slide grease and lip balm. So I think it would help him as well. You just need to worry a little bit about if it's been in a barn before you got a hold of it.
Well, you don't want to offend the cattle.
Right. So Bag Balm is sold all over. You'll be able to find it anywhere.
Stupid utter face. There you go. So Ben and Jerry's.
For that, I'm sorry.
Ben and Jerry's, and then brand new Bag Balm.
Right. Sealed, unseal it. Right.
Sealed Bag Balm.
Sealed bag.
There you
And then
go.
what you can use on your slides after, yeah.
She got in her Vermont
might be
plug.
our most well-prepared guest. I don't know of anybody who's actually done homework in
I
anticipation.
know. This is me. This is me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Wow. What were your favorite shows that you listened to of ours?
Well, I listened to the Mary Bowden one, and I really liked that because you guys got into the deliberateness.
Mhm.
And I know we're going to be done. One of the myths of an artist is that
You're the host. You get to end us whenever you want.
Okay.
we're going to take a minute here. One
So,
of the
Joanna,
myths
tell
of
us about the Jam Mouthpiece. Oh, I'm glad you asked.
Hush, I'm talking.
Now that's why you got that finger in your face, okay?
That's right.
One of the myths of an artist is that we are free and flowing, and that we just emote creativity, and we don't like. Yeah,
The hell are you yelling for? Take it down a notch. Decaf.
we don't like the sense of being orderly and corporate, right? We don't like a box. We want to think that we are creative and free. And one of the things that I thought was great about that interview with Mary was that you guys talked about her deliberateness in creating an image with the photographer that's a unique image to her and no one else has it.
Right.
And how the layout and things like which agent and all of that's very deliberate. And so what we're seeing is the behind the scenes, the under the iceberg deliberateness, which then gives her the freedom to look free and easy as a soloist because she's laid the groundwork so carefully. And I thought that was great. That's the thinking side of it that we don't talk about all that much.
Right.
So I really appreciated that. I thought that was a great thing to bring out.
There you go.
Cool.
See? Every once in a while,
You did.
blind squirrel will get a nut from time to time.
I do remember us nailing that interview now that you mention it.
I know. See that? Good job.
But enough about me. Why don't you talk about it? All right, we'll put all these links in the show notes, including some you didn't ask for. We're just going to stick them down.
Great.
Bag Balm, I think it's up with
Bag Balm, made in
like
St. Johnsbury, Vermont.
We can get an endorsement from them.
Hey, there you go.
Dear Bag Balm,
Hey,
you
dear.
don't know us.
But you know Joanna, she's famous. She's on Instagram for 2 seconds.
Yeah, Colburn, you're not even our first Vermont guest. You're our
I
second.
know, and he's here. You know, he's conducting the honor band tonight,
right.
the honor band of
Right.
America tonight.
Oh, is he
So
a conductor?
Yeah, he and I have. Yeah, he plays a little euphonium too. Did you know?
How big is it?
So anyway,
This is
it's
Hey.
been great to chat with you both.
we exasperated David Childs at the buzzer. We just exasperated Joanna at the
I know,
buzzer.
right?
When it doesn't work out, it doesn't happen. I feel kind of bummed out. So,
It's tradition now. Twice.
yep. Yeah, there
This
you
is
go.
tradition.
It's that deliberate thing from the Bowden episode.
right.
We just
You come and then you strike, and boom, nobody
It's her
remembers.
fault.
chip. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Mary. All right. Well, Joanna, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Yeah, you too. And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Joey Santillo. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.